Water that shimmers like glass, brushstrokes that seem to move with the wind, and an artist who painted the same scene hundreds of times. Not because he wanted perfection, but because he was chasing something much harder to capture: light itself. Claude Monet didn't just paint what he saw, he painted how it felt to see it. He defied strict art traditions of 19th century France and helped create an entirely new style of painting called Impressionism. But Monet's story isn't just about beauty, it's about persistence. For years, critics called his work messy and unfinished. He faced rejection, poverty, and loss, yet he never stopped painting. And by the end of his life, his water lilies, or nymphaea, would transform the way the world thought about art. Let's step into Monet's world and uncover how his life, his movement, and his garden became one of the greatest artistic success stories of all time.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Hannah, and I am so glad that you have stumbled across my page, Impressions of Time. Today I'm posting my first ever YouTube video, and I'm going to be replicating this piece by Claude Monet titled A Bridge Over a Pond of Water. And as I replicate the piece using my preferred medium, which is oil pastels, I am also going to be sharing a brief overview of his life, the Impressionism movement, and how he was one of the founding fathers, the Water Lilies series, and then the legacy he left on modern art. And as I go through the history, I also want you to remember that I'm not French, because I butchered all of the French words. All of them. So I hope that doesn't affect the way that you think of the video's history, and I just wanted to put it out there. But without further ado, I really hope you enjoy this video. If you get inspired by my piece or inspired by the content itself, like the history, please leave a like or even subscribe. That'd be pretty lit. And yeah, let's just get right into it because I'm talking so much. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much. Bye.
Claude Monet was born on November 14, 1840, in Paris, France, but spent most of his youth in the seaside town of La Havre. In Normandy, the coast, with its fog, water, and changing skies, became his lifelong classroom. As a teenager, Monet was already known locally, not for painting landscapes, but for drawing caricatures, humorous sketches of townspeople that he sold for pocket money. Everything changed when he met Eugène Boudon, a local painter who introduced him to the practice of painting outdoors, en plein air. This phrase literally means in the open air, and it was revolutionary at the time. Most artists still painted indoors using sketches or imagination, but Boudon taught Monet that to capture true light and color, you had to be in the landscape, not just observing it. Later, Monet moved back to Paris to study art. He briefly attended the École des Beaux-Arts, the top fine arts academy in France, but quickly became frustrated with its rigid rules. He wanted freedom, not formality. Instead, Monet joined the Académie Suisse, an informal studio where artists could paint live models without strict instruction. There he met other future Impressionists, including Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Camille Pissarro, and Alfred Sisley. They bonded over a shared dream to paint the modern world honestly as it appeared to the human eye. In the 1860s and 70s, France's art world was controlled by the Académie des Beaux-Arts and its official exhibition known as the Salon. To succeed as an artist, you had to be accepted by the Salon, and to be accepted, you had to follow their rules. Paintings were expected to be realistic, carefully blended, and based on history, religion, or mythology. Monet and his friends rejected all of that. They wanted to paint scenes from everyday life: picnics by the river, bustling city streets, sunlight filtering through the leaves, and they wanted to show what the eye actually sees: quick, flickering impressions of color and light, rather than sharp outlines and perfect form. This was the foundation of what became known as Impressionism. The name came, almost by accident, from one of Monet's paintings, Impression sur le levant, which also is sunrise. It was shown at an independent exhibition in 1874 that Monet helped organize with other like-minded painters. A critic mocked the painting, saying it was just a sketch, a mere impression. But instead of being insulted, the artists embraced the label. Impressionism perfectly captured what they were trying to do: express fleeting visual sensations instead of rigid detail. At first, the public hated it. Critics said Monet's paintings looked unfinished, like the work of someone who painted with his eyes half closed. He sold very few pieces and often struggled to afford paint or pay rent. Yet Monet refused to give up. He believed in this new way of seeing, and that belief would soon change the entire course of art. Over time, Monet's work began to find an audience. His paintings captured something others couldn't: the feeling of being in a specific place at a specific moment. He started experimenting with painting the same subject over and over, under different light and weather conditions. These are known as series paintings. His Haystack and Rouen Cathedral series, for example, each show how color and atmosphere shift dramatically depending on the time of day or season. This idea that light changes how we see everything became the foundation of modern art. Monet's brushstrokes grew faster and more expressive, his colors brighter and more natural. Where traditional artists mixed dark colors to create shadows, Monet used complementary colors like blue and orange or purple and yellow to make his shadows vibrant and alive. Through his daring experiments, Monet pushed art beyond representation and closer to perception itself. In 1883, Monet moved to the small village of Zevernay, about 50 miles from Paris. There, he found the peace and inspiration he'd been searching for. Monet bought a farmhouse and spent decades transforming it into a living work of art. He designed colorful flower beds, arched bridges, and eventually built a large pond that would become the centerpiece of his life's work. To create his dream water garden, Monet diverted a nearby stream, the River Epte, and filled the pond with plants from around the world. He even imported water lilies from Egypt and South America. The result was breathtaking: a reflective pool where sky and water seemed to merge. Monet would spend hours watching the changing colors of the water, waiting for the perfect moment to paint. He once said, "My garden is my most beautiful masterpiece." Around 1897, Monet began his first water lilies, or nymphaea, paintings. At first, they showed the pond surface, the edge of the garden, and glimpses of trees or sky. But as years passed, he moved closer to the water, eventually eliminating the horizon entirely. His later water lilies paintings are almost abstract. There's no sense of up or down, just shimmering color and reflection. This was radical. He was painting the experience of looking, not just the object itself. Monet's process was meticulous and emotional. He often painted the same canvas dozens of times, scraping off layers of paint to rework the light. He struggled with cataracts in his later years, which made his vision blurry and tinted by yellows and reds. Yet rather than give up, he adapted. His brushstrokes became looser, his colors more intense, and his forms softer and dreamlike. Between 1887 and 1926, he created around 300 water lilies paintings. Some were small, intimate study, others were massive, stretching across entire walls. In 1914, after the devastation of World War I, Monet decided to create something monumental, a gift to France symbolizing peace and renewal. This became his Grandes Décorations, a series of enormous water lily murals designed for the Musée de l'Orangerie in Paris. Monet oversaw every detail, from the curved rooms to the natural skylight that would illuminate the paintings. The installation opened in 1927, just months after his death. Visitors described it as stepping inside a painting, surrounded on all sides by rippling color and light. Critics later called it the Sistine Chapel of Impressionism. Claude Monet's career spanned more than 60 years, and his influence reached far beyond France. His refusal to follow academic tradition paved the way for countless movements, from post-impressionism, led by artists like Vincent van Gogh and Paul Cézanne, to modern abstraction, influencing painters such as Henri Matisse and Jackson Pollock. Today, Monet's works hang in the world's most prestigious museums: the Musée d'Orsay, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the Tate Modern. His paintings, once ridiculed, now sell for tens of millions of dollars. More importantly, his vision changed how artists and ordinary people understand sight itself. Monet taught us that reality isn't fixed. It shifts with light, time, and emotion. His water lilies don't just show a pond, they show how beauty exists in constant motion. Standing before them today, you're not just looking at paint, you're sharing Monet's vision of the world, fleeting, luminous, and endlessly alive. From the Normandy coast to his garden in Zavernay, Claude Monet spent a lifetime chasing the impossible, to paint the way light feels. Through struggle and perseverance, he turned that pursuit into one of the most influential artistic movements in history. More than a century later, his water lilies continue to remind us that beauty isn't something we capture, it's something we notice, in the shimmering moments between light and color.